All right, this is Danila Sands with MendoLake Complex Fire Relief, a disaster resource center located in Mendocino County, and we are doing a series of emergency preparedness webinars. Today, we are meeting with Kelly BOESEL, owner of Blue Ribbon Pets, and she will be talking about emergency preparation for your pets. She will give a presentation, and at the end, halfway through our webinar, you will have time to ask questions and we will answer those directly to the speaker. You can do that in the comment section on Facebook or the Q&A or chat section here on the Zoom webinar. Kelly, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you, Danila. Are we ready to go? Okay. So again, my name is Kelly BOESEL. I'm from Blue Ribbon Pets. We do grooming, boarding, daycare, and behavioral consultations. And today I'm going to do a presentation on emergency preparedness for your pets. We're going to talk about the definition of what an emergency is and give some examples of that, how to identify emergencies, make a plan for them, how to train your pet for those emergencies, what to do during the actual emergency event, and then what to do after the emergency. So first of all, we need to define what an emergency is, and this is going to apply to both humans and pets. An emergency is a serious, sudden, unexpected, often dangerous event or situation requiring immediate action. And from an emergency, we have two perspectives that we're going to be looking at today. One is the perspective of a human, which could be an intruder into your house, a vehicle accident, a flood, or a fire, such as we've been having lately in our area. From the pet perspective, though, again, remember, an emergency is a serious, sudden, unexpected, often dangerous event or situation requiring immediate action. So from a dog's point of view, and I'm going to be referring mostly to dogs because that's the main component of my business. So a dog, a car backfiring, a gunshot, an appearance of an intruder in the home, a windstorm, a tree falling down, these can all trigger to the dog an emergency response. So what happens during an emergency response, it triggers the amygdala to trigger the fight or flight response. That tells the dog, you need to decide right now, is this event going to be a good event or a bad event? You have to decide right now if you're going to live or die. At that point, they're incapable of rational thought. It's simply a life-saving choice that genetics has told them. If you want the species to survive, this is what you need to do. So again, from the dog's point of view, if they've triggered their flight response, they need to create distance between them and the threat. So we have genetics that's responsible for that, which is millions of years, or maybe not millions of years, thousands of years of evolution for the dogs that has said new events are capable of killing you. But now we have socialization of a puppy that says, you know, let's see what we can do to override genetics. Let's expose you to new humans. Let's expose you to noises. Let's expose you to new situations and teach you that these things that might be fearful in a wild animal are not necessarily something to be afraid of. But what happens if we miss that socialization period? What happens if a dog grows up without the benefit of good genetics, without the benefit of good socialization? Well, now we come to the training aspect. What can we do to teach our dogs how to be better in a scary event so that they're safe, others around them are safe, and we're safe? And again, what we think is scary is absolutely, totally, and completely irrelevant. We are looking at this from the dog's point of view. What we perceive to be normal doesn't matter, because it's not us that we're dealing with, it's the pets that we're dealing with. So we always want to focus on the animal's perspective, not our perspective. So when we're looking at emergencies for our pet, we want to identify different types of emergencies when we're making our plan. What can affect our pet? They can be attacked by another animal. They can be in a car accident. That's happened to several pets here in this county recently, where the owners were driving a car. There was a car accident. The dog took off. Some have been found. Some have not been found yet. But again, that event was an emergency. It's a serious, sudden, unexpected, dangerous event or situation, and they had to take immediate action. Their genetics told them, you need to decide right now if you're going to live or die. If they're not going to fight it, then they're going to flee from it. So that's what those dogs did. They had the accident and they took off. So keep that in mind when you're making your plan for your different emergencies. So today we're going to talk about plans on how we as humans can manage 2 emergencies for our pets. The first one is a medical emergency. The second one, which we've all used or all had need to discuss recently, is evacuating either our home or our business. So in our medical emergency plan, the first thing that we can do is we can take a pet CPR or first aid class. We can make sure that all of our pets are current and up to date on their veterinary care. Have they had their yearly exam? Are they current on their vaccines? Are they on heartworm preventative? Are they on flea and tick control? Do we have copies of our medical records? If our pet has been diagnosed with a health condition, do we know what that condition is? Do we know at what stage they are in that condition? And if they're taking medication, what is it, how much of it is it, and when do they need to take it? And then we need a medical first aid kit to be able to deal with medical emergencies until we can get our pet to a veterinary professional. We can also practice taking our pet's vital signs. Not only will the veterinarian need to know that if we happen to call for a phone consultation, if we can't go in right away, or maybe we don't need to know if our pet needs to go right away. What is their normal pulse? What is their normal respiration? What is their normal temperature? Practice doing an exam on your pet. Help your veterinarian be able to take better care of your pet and teach your vet how to do these weird and invasive and unusual things that we as humans think are just fine, but from an animal's point of view are invasive to them and they're scary. And again, a scary situation, fight or flight, that's their response. So we don't want them to flee. We don't want them to bite and cause a hazard to themselves or others. We want them to understand that sometimes humans do really weird and bizarre and scary things. Here's an example of an emergency kit that we have here, that I have at home, that I have in the horse trailer, that my daughter took to college with her for her horse and her dog. Just some very common things so that we can provide emergency first aid care until we can get to a trained medical professional. So now our evacuation plan, we need to decide when, where, how we're going to evacuate, how are we going to communicate our evacuation need to our family members, to others in our community, to people in the area that we're going to go to. We need to have our evacuation kit ready, and we need to get our pet ready for an evacuation, vaccinations, microchip, medications, and get our pet trained to do an evacuation. Remember, an evacuation is an immediate need. It's a scary thing. We don't want to activate their fight or flight response. We want them to say, oh, you know what? This is a little bit different. It's a little bit unusual. It's a little bit exciting, but we've done similar things like this before, and I've gotten treats because of it. So let's all join in on this party and have this new exciting adventure instead of bite somebody and run away. So our evacuation kit for our pets, and have this ready ahead of time. You are not going to remember to get this when it's time to leave. You are not going to remember your pet's vaccines. You are not going to remember your pet's veterinarian. You're not going to remember your pet's name in some cases. During the October 2017 fires, when we started checking pets in that were evacuated, they were coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. We would get just the basic information from people, their name, address, phone number, the vet's name, and the pet's name. People were so traumatized, their own fight or flight response had been activated that they were incapable of remembering their address. They could not remember their phone number. In some cases, it was a total blank what their dog's name even was. So don't rely on your memory and having this information at your fingertips. Have it written down, have it photographed, take a picture of it, put it in your phone, put it in a hard copy somewhere, put it on a cloud, have it to where you can access it in multiple locations if there is an emergency, so you don't have to think, it just becomes an automatic response. Also have a list of contacts, your veterinarian's name and address and phone number. Most of the clients that came in could not even remember where their veterinary hospital was so that we could get animal records the next day. Also know where are you going to take your pet, boarding kennel, animal control shelter. Animal control in our county does set up an emergency evacuation center, and you will be hearing more information about that. And so you can take your pet there, but at some point they will be full. And if your pet has not been trained to rest quietly in a crate, if your pet is dangerous to handle, if your pet is unmanageable, they might not be able to take your pet into the evacuation center that they have set up because it's dangerous for them, their volunteers, their staff, and it's dangerous for your pet. So, but have a list of all those contacts. And here is part of my go box. My actual go box is much larger than this because I plan for the kennel, I plan for the dogs, the cats, and the horses. So these are some things that I have with me when I want to evacuate, or if I need to evacuate. I need to know that I have everything with me to set up a station to care for my pet without relying on, oh, do I have gloves? I need to find someone that has gloves. Oh, my cat needs a litter pan. I need to find someone that has a litter pan. Oh, I need to label my dog's carrier. I need to go find a Sharpie marker, or I need to go find duct tape. You know, oh, it's fly season. I need to go find fly spray. I don't need to find anything because I have a portable home with my pet that's set up and ready to go. So now, as far as your evacuation plan and knowing when to leave, I will tell you from personal experience that you need to make it easy on your pet, you need to make it easy on yourself, and you need to make it easy on your first responders. You need to leave early. The fires that were recently in Healdsburg and Windsor, about 2 months ago now, we had a family contact us about boarding their dogs and their cats, and they had horses that needed to come up to stay at a friend's house up here. So we talked to them in the morning. It was about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. They were under an evacuation warning. They were not mandated to leave. They were not ordered to leave. It was just a warning. We told them we would prefer if you come now. We're going to need time to do this. And they decided to wait. By the time the evacuation warning had been changed to a mandatory evacuation order, it was 6 o'clock at night. And they couldn't get the horses loaded in the horse trailer. It took them 2 hours to get these normally well-behaved, well-trained, well-socialized horses in their horse trailer because they were panicked. That upset the horses because now the horses' fight or flight response is starting to be triggered, and they couldn't get them in the trailer. By the time they got the horses in the trailer, it was 8 o'clock. That 2 hours is valuable when you're under an evacuation order. That 2 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes can all mean the difference between life or death. So make it easy and make it safe. By the time they got up here and they dropped off the horses and they came to us with the dogs and the cats, it was 10:30 at night. That was over 12 hours since we had had our first conversation with them. That makes for a long day. It makes for a frustrating day. It makes it difficult on the dogs. We're getting them set up and established, sorry about that, in a new environment. And it's dark out and we're trying to get them settled, and we can't get them settled because everyone's rushed and it's late at night. So leave early, get out of the way of the first responders, make it easy on yourself, know that everybody else around you is trying to evacuate at the same time, and the time that you think it's going to take you to get somewhere is not going to be the time. It's going to take you much, much longer to get where you need to go. So how are you going to evacuate? Every person in the household needs to have a role. Who's going to grab the kit? Who's going to grab the leashes? Who's going to get the dogs in the crate? Who's going to get the horses? Who's going to load up what car? Who's going to do what? Have a plan. What if that person is gone? Who's going to take over that role? What if that person all of a sudden has an injury and they can't do it? Now who's going to help you? And don't rely on volunteers to come in and help you. Even though we have a large number of volunteers that have tons of experience in animal emergencies and animal evacuations, they may not be able to get to you. They may be evacuating themselves. They may be prohibited to get there, and also sometimes having untrained people in the disaster area creates more of a hazard and more of a risk for the first responders. So don't be one of those who has failed to plan and now creates a more difficult time for people needing to put out the fire, and they can't because they have to help you get your things together and get your animals out of there. Where are you going to go? Have a backup plan for where to go. You may not be able to get to the evacuation center. The evacuation center may be full. You may have a friend that said, yes, you can come stay with me, but maybe they don't want your dogs there, or maybe they're evacuating too. Maybe the hotel is full because the fires from the Bay Area, the people from Vacaville came up, from Fairfield came up, from Marin County, they came up and I filled up our hotels. So then when it was time for us to evacuate, there were no hotels available in Ukiah for people to stay. So have a plan and have a backup plan and have another backup plan. So here comes to the main portion of our discussion is we want to make it easy to evacuate with our pets. We want to make it easy for our pets to be at an evacuation center, whether it's an evacuation center for humans or one for animals or a hotel or a friend's house or a boarding kennel. We had, during the October 2017 fire, we had 75 dogs that were evacuated to our facility, which is double our normal capacity. So we had 4 dogs from a family that we had to call them within a couple of hours, and we had to tell them, you have to pick up your dogs, because we could not approach the dogs. We could not get the dogs out of the kennel. They wanted to lunge at us. We found out from a neighbor that the dogs had bit several people in the neighborhood. We had to call those owners and say, I'm sorry, we cannot house your dogs in this emergency because we cannot safely handle your dogs. So they had to come pick up their dogs and find alternate arrangements. So make it easy for people to manage your dogs. Teach your dogs how to be handled by strangers. Teach your dogs how to be leashed. Teach your dogs how to walk nicely on a leash. Maybe you have a dog that's just never going to get to that point to be comfortable around strangers, and that's okay. You know, that's just how they are. So what we can do to make them safe and to make other people safe is we can teach those dogs how to wear a basket muzzle. That way we can approach them safely. We can put a leash on them safely. We can get them where we need to go. And get them there safely with everybody else too. So also get your pet ready, microchip your pet, microchip your pet. During the October 2017 fires, we had 8 dogs that came in without owners. 4 were claimed within a couple of hours. The owners just needed to find out where their dogs had gone because their dogs were evacuated separately from them. 4 others were unclaimed at the end of a week. So they went to animal control. None of them were microchipped, but 2 of those dogs were claimed within 24 hours because the owner, who was busy for the week prior putting out his fires around his neighbors' houses, learned about the evacuation center at animal control, learned that dogs had been taken there. He was able to identify his dogs. But if his dogs would have been microchipped, we could have looked up the microchip and we could have contacted him and said, don't worry, your dogs are safe. He went a whole week in those fires without knowing if his dogs were alive or not. So the other 2 dogs were unclaimed. There was never an owner identified, and they were adopted out into a new home after the whole period was up. So crate train your pet. If you haven't already, teach your pet that the crate is one of the safest, best, most wonderful things around there. My dogs all, when they come, whether they're puppies, adults, whether they're young, adolescents, or middle age, are all taught the first thing. If you want to be absolutely safe and happy and have wonderful things happen to you, go in your crate. There's treats, there's snacks, there's toys, there's no noise. We use the Berry kennel, the hard-sided plastic ones. I don't use a wire kennel because they can't defend themselves. I want them to not feel threatened in their little den or when they're in their little crate. So we use the hard-sided Berry kennel. And also if I need to evacuate, I can stack crates on top of each other. I can stack things on top of the crate. I can pack things in the crate without worrying about the crate falling apart. The other thing is train your dog to an emergency recall. And our resources at the end, I put in some links to a really reliable recall and an emergency recall. You're only going to use this in extreme situations, when they're ready to bolt across the street, when you see a threat coming at them and you want to call them to you for safety. Again, teach your dog to accept a muzzle, and teach your horse to load quickly and cleanly, even if it's noisy and scary and windy and dark and things are banging around. You want that horse to think the trailer is the safest place to be ever, always, and forever. And you can teach your cat to come when called. But if you do have to leave and evacuate, leave the door open so your cat can get out and take care of themselves. But microchip your pets. So part of the plan, so we here at Blue Ribbon Pets, we have multiple emergency action plans. One of them is for fire. We have 2, one for a fire out in the community where people are evacuating to us with their pets, or their pets are evacuating to us. The other one is where we need to evacuate off the property. And we did just have to activate that action plan a couple of weeks ago when there was a fire just down the road. And even though it would have been okay for us not to evacuate, I did not want to be wrong. And I did not want to be at the very last minute trying to get out. So we evacuated early, which is what we always tell people to do. I don't care if it's mandatory, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get out now. We have all staff on duty, are trained. We go through emergency action plans all the time. We train for emergencies, whether it's a dog bite, a power outage, a broken water pipe, whatever it is, thunderstorms. We train for different events and different activities so that everybody knows what to do and how to do that. One of the deficiencies that we found a couple in our action plan, because afterwards you always want to review your plan and see where you have shortcomings or deficiencies and how to address that. One of them was the phone. The phone rang and rang and rang because we were getting NIXL alerts for our own fire just a block away. So we had to remember to deactivate the NIXL alert. We had clients calling in, inquiring about their pets, how to pick them up. We had people concerned asking us how we were. So we needed to find and develop a different plan for managing the phone situation. The other thing that we realized is that there can't be one person directing operations. There needs to be an automation to the operations. So now we are putting together a new list so that one person could be told, you're doing a cattery, there's a chart on the wall, and the chart has the steps that they need to take in order to evacuate the cattery. One person is told, here's your steps to take to evacuate the groom room. Another one is assigned the kennel, and another person is assigned the office. The other thing that we found out is traffic, and choosing a backup location is crucial. We had told clients, go meet us at this location here, but the problem was the people that were helping us could not get in. They could not get through the roadblocks. Some did not. So we need to identify and manufacture an ID system so that they can do that. The other thing is everybody that wanted to come look at the fire. All those people coming to look at the fire interfered with the ability of our necessary personnel to get here and help evacuate. So we have to refine our plan to take care of that situation. So as an example of our plan for the grooming shop, all pets immediately get locked up into crates. Any pets that are in the tub are rinsed out regardless of how clean they are. They are rinsed out to get the product out. They're wrapped up in towels. Everything is unplugged and shut off. We pull the cage cards, the leashes, the collars so that we have all of our identification that we need. We have our instructions that say to grab the grooming go box. We have a separate box set up for grooming that has emergency supplies to go with us. And we have our clipboard with our evacuation plan. It tells us who gets evacuated first and where. And then if we have time, do we have anything else that we can grab in the meantime? And so that's our just a quick overview of our evacuation plan for the grooming shop. So again, some problems that we had identified in our emergency plan. So now we come to the recovery process. Again, this is an emergency. We've activated the dog's fight or flight response. This is a serious, sudden, unexpected, dangerous event or situation, and we've had immediate action. But now we're in recovery. The action does not have to be immediate. So many people during the October 2017 fires, they had gotten the okay to go home. They wanted to come get their dogs immediately and go home. The problem was they had not been home yet to know if there was a home. Was the power on? Was the water on? Were there hazards? Were there still burning stumps or hot stumps in their yard? So don't be in a hurry to go home even though you want to. Take your time. Go home, get your boots, your gloves, your safety equipment, your clipboard. Make sure it's safe for your family to return home. Make sure it's safe for your pets to go home. And then when it's time to bring your pets home, bring them home in the daytime. It's scary for them to go home into an area that is different. It smells different. It looks different. Things sound different. There's different people that have been through. The whole, what they perceive to be normal is different. And again, new or novel things are scary. New and novel things can kill you. And so those pets are deciding, do I live or do I die based on this information that's here? And they're not necessarily going to be looking to you for directions unless you've trained them look to me for directions. So bring them home in the morning, help them get into a routine and get settled in. Remember, just as you have PTSD from an emergency, so can your pets. A sudden sound, a smell, an action, the presence of a particular item can all trigger that fight or flight response due to the previous emotional trauma that they had. A failure to plan is a plan to fail. Make it automatic, make it easy. When you make it easy and you make it automatic, you become more successful, you become safer, and then you can help others in your community to be safer also. You can help other pets that are in evacuation centers. You can help other pets be evacuated. So here's a list of resources. I think I've gone through that fast enough. Danila, we can take in question and answers right now if you are available.
I am available.
Was that
Thank
fast?
you. Thank you, Kelly. No, I thought that was very well done. I appreciated it. I learned a lot of information, but it's comprised and it's understandable. So thank you. So just want to remind everyone that's watching, now we have some people in the Zoom webinar, or if you're watching live on Facebook right now, that you can ask your questions either in the Q&A section on Zoom or in the comment section on Facebook, and we're going to ask Ms. Basil directly. So we already have some questions that have come in. One of the questions is, how can I prepare my pets if they have anxiety about going in a cage or kennel?
Oh, very good thing. So I listed here in the resources some of my very favorite training resources, and these are the ones that I gave to the students in the 4-H Dog Project. I was the dog project leader from the time my daughter was 4 until she was about, I think, 16, 17. And so we needed to identify resources that were behaviorally sound, that were based on science, that were positive, humane, without punishment. So if you go to clickertraining.com, there's tips on how to clicker train your pet, the whole process of how to actually do the training. But then if you go to dogstardaily.com and apdt.com, there are hundreds of articles on crate training and anxiety, how to train your pet to see the crate as something wonderful and exciting. So the first thing is you want to address the anxiety. If your dog is anxious, they can't learn. So you want to help with that anxiety, help them be a little bit calmer. It may require some pharmaceutical help from your veterinarian. Make it easy for the crate. Take the crate apart, just have the bottom sitting there and put their bed in it, put some random Kong toys filled with liverwurst in there, put new and wonderful things in there that they go, while they walk by the crate and they go, oh my gosh, that's like amazing. I should check this out more. When you see them walk by and they look at the crate with interest, oh, you're so smart, look at you, check out that crate. You want to make that crate something nice and comfortable and familiar. Generally, once they learn that the crate is a good thing, what is more typical that will happen is a dog with anxiety will not want to come out of the crate, and they will actually become crate aggressive because the crate is their safe place and everything outside of that is scary. But excellent articles, webinars, books, videos, everything on those 2 sites specifically.
Thank you. And for anyone joining us, we are going to add Blue Ribbon Pet's contact information on the top of the Facebook post. So if you have any further questions as well. So here's another question. What's the price range for a pet go bag and where can I buy one?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't know what the price is because I put it together from our supplies here at work. You can go online and in the disaster planning emergency preparedness links, you can click on those and there's usually links to companies that will put together a bag for you. I'm kind of a cheap ass, and so I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying you for something I can do myself. So I go online and I order because I have a bag here for work for the employees. I have one for the kennel, I have one for the home, I have one for my daughter for at college, I have one that goes in the horse trailer. So I go and I buy, you know, bandages by the hundreds, and I buy bandage tape by the hundreds. I go to the hardware store and I buy duct tape. I was in search and rescue for 12 years, and one of our quick ready bags for if we had to go out on a 48-hour hasty search was sanitary pads and duct tape. If it's too small, in the wilderness training that we did for wilderness first aid, if it's too small for a sanitary pad, you're fine. If it's too big, you're probably in a whole lot of trouble anyway. So you can do it.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of things at home to put in your bag if you understand first aid and CPR. So if you take your first aid CPR class, that will help you put together a bag. So you can have a bag for $20, or you could have a bag for several $100s if you've got pets with special needs.
Thank you. That sounds like an emergency go bag. We can buy one that's already made,
Yes.
or we slowly build one ourselves, and it doesn't have to be, you know, full functioning the day of. We can add to it throughout the years. But yeah, that's great. Thank you. I did like how you touched on this sort of already about you don't have to wait until it's a mandatory evacuation. You don't even necessarily have to wait for an advisory evacuation. If, you know, warning, if you feel there's a fire that's close enough that you need to start preparing, we all know with the history of fire, you know, the creek fire, for example, spotted out at 15 miles ahead.
Right.
So, you know, if there is a fire near you and you have a lot of livestock or a lot of animals, and maybe this is your first time evacuating, I did like how you touched on, you know, start early, right?
Start early. Yes.
Yeah.
We actually took in 2 cats for evacuation recently that came from Lake County. They actually came before they received an evacuation warning, and it's because they belonged to an elderly couple with limited mobility, and the daughter lived in a separate county. So the daughter went to their house, helped them get the cats when everything was still calm and relaxed. They boxed up their important things. They boxed up the cats. They brought the cats to us, and the parents went to the daughter's house. So they were out before they ever had an evacuation warning, but they knew they were going to need an additional time. The cats came, they were happy, they were relaxed, they weren't stressed. Oh, we're in a box and there's little catnip for us. Oh, we have canned food, and oh, we have a kitty condo, and we have pets. The husband and wife were relaxed and calm because they knew they had gotten their most important things out of the house. The daughter was happy because she knew her parents were safe and they weren't competing for everybody else. So, or competing with everybody else. So they got out early before there was even a warning. And it was because they knew they did not have the ability to move quickly in an emergency.
That's great. Thank you. The other one said, sometimes when people are evacuated, they leave their pets behind.
Some do. Yeah. And really there's no right answer to this. As much as I love pets and my business is with them, I've always told my daughter, I can get another dog. I can't get another you.
Yeah.
So it may come to that point to where you have to choose, get out, you know, set them loose if you need to, give them the freedom to run. I guarantee you they can run faster and farther than you can. There was a cat during the 2017 fires that went missing from Lake County in the Cobb Mountain area. It was found in Sonoma County. I want to say, I'm not really familiar with that backside, but I want to say Calistoga maybe. Someone found the cat and it was microchipped. They put the posters up all over the shelters. The microchip wasn't updated, which was bad, but the people had happened to call, and I told them, you know, your cat can go a long ways. You know, you need to look in Sonoma County, you need to look in Napa County, you need to look in Mendocino County. You don't know where that cat's going to end up. You don't know if someone's going to pick them up and transport them. They found their cat alive and safe and healthy. So
those are some of our favorite stories when we hear a cat or another animal found, you know, mostly cats, like 8 months or even a year later, coming back to the property.
Yeah, Lake County, a cat was gone for 8 months because cats have their territory. They monitor that territory by sight and sound and smell. And when it's burned over, it doesn't look the same. It doesn't smell the same. So it can take them a long time to get back home. But if they're microchipped and they're friendly and they go up to somebody, at some point, someone's going to scan that microchip and they'll come sooner. In the case of the Lake County, there's a second Lake County cat. It was 8 months that cat came home and it showed back up. Healthy, fine, a little bit thin, but doing well. So it can happen.
That's great. So that leads us into our next question of where can I get a chip? How much do they cost?
So the microchip costs vary. You can a chip put in through your veterinarian. You can probably, I would have to check. I don't know if VIP has it when they do the mobile vaccine clinics. County Animal Shelter does microchips. You can make an appointment to have a microchip done. And then you can, at the same time, have that microchip number linked up with your dog license. And you can have one done there. You can have one done while every veterinarian has microchips. They're really easy, and it could be anywhere from $5 to $50, depending on where you get it done, what registry company they use, where they purchase the microchip, and whether or not it's subsidized. The microchips at animal control are subsidized partially by the county, so they're really inexpensive, and it includes registration already. So,
great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to remind anybody that's joining. We're going to be wrapping up here in the next 2 minutes. We're just letting you guys have an opportunity to ask questions on Facebook or if you're in the Zoom section. So let's just go through the rest of these questions here. Is there training opportunity for people to help with evacuating animals?
I know the county is working on a plan for that. There are other counties that have a more structured format. What you would want to do in this case is contact animal control, the animal shelter, and I put their phone number down. 463-4427 is the number for the office, and ask them about volunteering. I know Lake County has the LEAP program over in the Sacramento area that have the North Valley Animal Disaster Group. I think there's a group down in Sonoma County. But from a personnel standpoint, if you haven't been trained and you're not working with an official agency, really just stay out. In search and rescue, one of the hardest things is people that came in that really, really wanted to help and had no training. They could mess up clues, they could get injured themselves. Now they're creating more work for us. With our fires in 2017 in October out in Rabbit Valley, people wanted to go in and help with the animals, but there's hazards. There's power lines, there's gas lines, there's propane tanks that can still explode. There's toxic chemicals. So you need to know what you're doing before you cause a problem for someone else, but call animal control. And that would be the best place to start for our county because they are the lead agency for animal disaster services in Mendocino County.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So we're going to end with this last question. Someone talked about the effects of the smoke on animals and pets regarding the ash. So when the property, I think you kind of highlight a little bit on this about please go back to the home first before picking
Yes.
up your pets and check on things versus picking them up and taking the property because there could be hazards.
Exactly.
This person was talking about, you know, the safety concerns regarding smoke and ash with their pets.
Yeah, and there have been some articles in some of the publications that we have come to us. What I would say in that circumstance is the hazards that exist for us are the same for pets. So if you want to know how best to protect your pet from smoke contamination, smoke inhalation, you really need to contact your veterinarian who is intimately familiar with your pet's health, because pets will have different risk factors the same as we do. Pets that have autoimmune disorders, that have heart disease, congestive heart failure, if they have lung issues, those pets are going to be at a greater risk than young, healthy, normal adult animals. Horses and livestock can be at a risk, as well as dogs and cats in the house. So on that case, I would say you really need to consult with your veterinarian to see what the risk is for you. But if we're breeding it, they're breeding it. If it's a risk for us, it's a risk for them.
Right. Very well said. Thank you, Kelly. So I just want to remind everyone that this is going to be saved on Facebook for viewing later. It'll also be on the MENDOLAKE Complex Fire Relief YouTube channel. We will also have the playlist of all of the webinars on there for you to watch at a later time. And all the information of how to contact Kelly at Blue Ribbon Pets will be on the top of the post, and any of the other links that she had mentioned, i.e. animal control. Kelly, do you have anything lastly that you'd like to conclude with?
No, I think really looking at it from your dog's point of view, your cat's point of view, your horse's point of view, what you think is scary and normal really doesn't matter. You have to look at it from your dog, and has your dog been set up to deal with this genetically through socialization and through training. And it's our obligation, if we're going to bring them into our human life and we're going to control them, that we need to make it their best life, that we need to take care of their physical needs, their emotional needs, and their behavioral needs, because all three of those are linked together. And so if you want to have a success during an emergency, then plan for it and help your pet learn how to cope with weird and strange things that can happen during an emergency.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I learned a lot. I hope other people learned a
Oh,
lot. And we're going to go ahead and conclude this meeting. Thank you,
all
Kelly.
right.
I appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you for the help the other night. Yeah, I think I made it.
All right. I'm going to stop.